Was a young girl named Adana. She was her parents' only child. Because of this, they loved her dearly. Adana was about 12 years old, and though she was beautiful and smart, she was also very stubborn, rude, and lazy. Adana's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Okafor, worked hard to provide her with everything she needed. They bought her fine clothes, took her to a good school, and made sure she never lacked anything. But Adana never appreciated their efforts. She refused to do chores at home, always arguing with her mother whenever she was asked to sweep, wash dishes, or tidy her room. "Why should I sweep? Am I a maid?" she would shout. "Adana, you are growing up and you need to learn to be responsible," her mother would plead. But Adana would roll her eyes and stomp off to her room, leaving her mother helpless and frustrated. Worse still, Adana had made some very bad friends at school. These girls were known for their mischief. They skipped classes, talked back to teachers, and roamed the streets after school instead of going home. Adana began to imitate them. Every day, she returned home late, her uniform dirty and her books neglected. "Adana, why are you late again?" her father would ask angrily. "I went to study with my friends," she would lie. Her parents knew she was lying, but whenever they tried to discipline her, she would scream and cry, causing a scene. Over time, Mr. and Mrs. Okafor grew tired of her behavior. Their once sweet little girl had become someone they could hardly recognize. One evening, after Adana came home unusually late and refused to explain where she had been, her parents sat her down. "We have had enough of this behavior, Adana," her father said sternly. "You don't listen, you don't respect us, and you are becoming someone we don't know. Since you don't want to listen to us, we are sending you to the village to stay with your Uncle Eze." Adana's eyes widened in shock. "The village? I'm not going anywhere." Her father shook his head. "You don't have a choice. Your Uncle Eze will teach you how to behave properly. You leave tomorrow." Adana cried and begged, but her parents' decision was final. The next morning, she packed her bags and her father drove her to the village. The journey was long. Adana sat in the car sulking, refusing to speak with her father. When they finally arrived, Uncle Eze and his family were waiting for them outside their house. Uncle Eze was Mr. Okafor's elder brother. He was a tall, strong man with a deep voice that could command a room. His wife, Auntie Ngozi, was kind but firm, and they had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, all close to Adana's age. "Welcome, Adana," Uncle Eze said warmly, shaking her hand. "We are happy to have you here." Adana didn't reply. She frowned and looked away. "You will learn respect here," her father said before leaving. "Behave yourself." As the car disappeared down the dusty road, Adana felt anger boiling in her chest. "How dare you send me to this backward place," she thought. "I will never forgive them." Life in the village was nothing like life in the city. In the morning, the roosters crowed loudly and Uncle Eze woke everyone up before dawn to do chores. Adana was horrified when Auntie Ngozi handed her a broom and asked her to sweep the compound. "I don't sweep," Adana said rudely. "You do now," Auntie Ngozi replied calmly. When Adana refused, her cousins laughed at her. "You think you are a princess," said Amaka, the eldest cousin. "In this house, everyone works. If you don't want to sweep, we will make you." Before Adana could respond, her cousins grabbed the broom and forced her to join them in sweeping. "Leave me alone! Leave me alone!" she screamed, but they ignored her cries. After the chores, Adana refused to speak with them or any of her other cousins. She sat by herself, sulking. Her cousins didn't seem to care. In the following days, Adana tried to test everyone's patience. She refused to help in the kitchen, avoided fetching water, and snapped at Auntie Ngozi whenever she was giving an instruction. But her behavior didn't get her the attention she had expected. Instead, her cousins grew tired of her attitude and ignored her completely. Adana soon realized that she was all alone. One evening, something happened that changed Adana's life. Uncle Eze had sent Amaka and the other children to fetch firewood from a nearby forest. Adana refused to go with them as usual and stayed behind in the house. Hours passed and the children had not returned. Uncle Eze began to worry. Where could they be? He muttered. Suddenly, one of the villagers came running to the house. Eze, come quickly. There's been an accident in the forest. Uncle Eze and Auntie Ngozi rushed out, leaving Adana behind. She sat alone in the dark, fear creeping into her heart. What if something terrible had happened to her cousins? She remembered how badly she had treated them and felt a pang of guilt. After what felt like forever, Uncle Eze returned, carrying Amaka on his back. Amaka's leg was badly injured and she was crying in pain. What happened? Adana asked softly. A tree branch fell on her hand. While they were fetching firewood, Uncle Eze said. The others are fine, but Amaka will need to rest for weeks. Adana watched as Auntie Ngozi and Uncle Eze cared for Amaka. Despite their worry, they remained calm and strong. For the first time, Adana felt ashamed of herself. She realized how selfish and ungrateful she had been. Her cousins had accepted her into their home and she had treated them poorly. That night, Adana couldn't sleep. She thought about her parents and how much they had loved her. She thought about her bad behavior and her rude attitude. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she made a decision that she would change. The next morning, Adana woke up early. She took the broom and began to sweep the compound before anyone was awake. Auntie Ngozi was surprised when she saw her. Adana, you are sweeping? She said. Yes, Auntie, I want to help, Adana replied. From that day on, Adana changed completely. She helped Auntie Ngozi in the kitchen, fetched water with her cousins, and even took care of Amaka while she recovered. Her cousins noticed her change and began to treat her kindly. Soon, they all became close friends. Uncle Eze was impressed. One evening, he called Adana aside. I'm proud of you, Adana. You've become a good girl. I'll call your parents and tell them the good news. When Mr. and Mrs. Okafor heard about Adana's change, they were overwhelmed. They traveled to the village to see her. And when they arrived, they could hardly believe their eyes. Their rude, stubborn daughter had become a respectful, hard-working girl. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm sorry, Papa, Adana said, hugging them tightly. We are proud of you, Adana, her father said with tears in his eyes. Adana returned to the city with her parents, but she was no longer the same girl. She woke up early to do her chores, respected her parents, and stopped hanging out with her bad friends. At school, she focused on her studies and made new responsible friends. Everyone noticed the change in her behavior. From that day on, Adana's family lived happily and peacefully, and her parents thanked Uncle Eze for teaching their daughter a valuable lesson. The moral of the story is that respect, hard work, and gratitude are virtues that makes us better people. Sometimes discipline and guidance from family helps us to become who we are meant to be. Thank you, my dear viewers, for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please let me know in the comment section what part of the story you enjoyed the most till I come your way again next time. Bye.